Well, that was an experience. So, I was innocently scrolling through the internet, and I saw this. Now, I've seen Lydia the Bard's villain songs in my recommendations before. I think I even have a few of them buried deep in my Watch Later playlist. But this time, I decided to actually watch it, especially because I'm still mad the Wendy Bird was cancelled. Then I watched the sequel. Then I watched them both like 30 times over the course of the weekend, and now I want to talk about them. If you want to check the songs out for yourself, I'm gonna leave them linked in the description below. If this video is longer than both put together, does it technically count as a long man video? The thing that I found most interesting about these videos is the way the world building slots together. Like, the writing is very impressive in how it takes hold of the various concepts and mixes them together to turn Tinkerbell into a monster, in a way that makes complete sense and explains various things the franchise was happy to not dig into, like how Tinkerbell found herself hanging out with some eternal child after her movies. The premise of the first video, Fall Little Wendy Bird Fall, is simple. In the original story, Tinkerbell wanted to kill Wendy because she was jealous of her monopolizing Peter's attention. But here, she keeps at it, convincing the mermaids to try and drown Wendy and later going for it directly. And that's not even counting the actual plot of the movie this is based on, where Tinkerbell's the one who told Captain Hook where to find the Lost Boys' hideout. But Tinkerbell isn't engaging in pedicide out of jealousy. No, she's doing it for the lore, and for the survival of her friends and family. It's at this point I have to give credit to both the lyrics and the visuals of the song for how they communicate the story to us, starting out with Tinkerbell changing into a more intimidating outfit than what she usually wears, but also showing a picture of her friends, who were at the core of her motivations. The art and music are really good, immediately communicating Tinkerbell's resentment of Wendy and how she perceives her as a threat to the messed up family she's made, and beyond even that, something far deeper. This imagery though, transitioning from 3 babies to 3 fairies with lines from Peter and the Lost Boys leading to Tinkerbell and her friends, is the most important for understanding Tink's motivation. Survival. In the lore of the Disney fairies, a fairy is born when the baby laughs for the first time, and the story uses that to explain everything about Peter Pan, both in the original movie and in the video. Because Tinkerbell is the fairy born from his first laugh, and beyond that, the other Lost Boys are tied to her friends, Iridessa, Rosetta, and Vidya. But concerningly, there aren't any children for Silver Mr. Fawn, who disappear as Tink sings about how she would let the Lost Boys go, but it would do more harm than good. The question is, who would it be harming? The expressions on Tinkerbell are just great, showing her anticipation and frustration as her plans fail and she becomes more and more scared of Wendy tempting the Lost Boys to go back to the mainland. But as monstrous as Tink is, her motivations do keep her sympathetic. Because like many things made for children, following things to their logical conclusions can create existential horrors that things made for adults can hardly touch. Fairies are born when a human laughs for the first time, but they die when humans don't believe in them. And going off this video, a fairy's existence depends on the human that created them. An unbreakable bond that can only end in tragedy because everyone grows up eventually. Tinkerbell sees Wendy as a real threat because she could convince Peter to leave, to grow up, and that could literally kill her, could kill her friends, and that image is simply more than she can bear. Unfortunately, the mermaids fail. Every time Tinkerbell tries something, Peter's there to save Wendy. He's too much of a hero to fail. As the song goes on, we get to see exactly how that happened, with a flashback to Tinkerbell experimenting on curing a dying fawn. This is Fawn's only appearance, so that clearly didn't work out. And so we see Tink's last, most horrible option. Every fairy is born from a human, and if that human ceases to believe in them, they cease to exist too. So what if they couldn't? What if they could never deny that fairies are real? What if they could never grow up? And so the 4 go off to the mainland and, through a sixth sense, track down their humans. And we see Tinkerbell and Peter's first meeting. He's amazed by her, and she tells him how to get to Neverland. And thus we hit the climax with Wendy and the Lost Boys sailing Hook's ship into the sky. We skip Hook entirely, because he's the actual villain of the story. We also skipped Wendy's brothers because they get in the way. With all the indirect murder attempts foiled, the fairies decide to take things into their own hands, with Vidya blowing away one of the 3 things needed to fly, specifically the one provided by fairies, pixie dust. Peter's face in this scene is gold because it's like he's slowly realizing exactly what just happened. Not fast enough though, because they immediately fall from the sky. With the other fairies saving the boys, Tinkerbell goes after Wendy, smiles at her, and pushes her head first into the rocks. It's the mix of sympathy and horror that really make this story compelling. You can't help but sympathize with the fairies and the existential threat they're facing, but you also can't ignore that they're literally targeting innocent kids to survive. So far, they haven't done anything too objectionable, at least not from the point of view of the kids, but once faced with someone that could take them away, things turned very lethal. There is so much emotion in Vidya blowing the pixie dust off the ship. I think it's very interesting that while Tink is having her edgy breakdown, the kids are usually portrayed as happy and enjoying themselves, with the only breaks being the attempted murders. But from Tinkerbell's perspective, Wendy may as well be trying to literally step on her friends, and even her sister. When it comes to sympathetic villains, there's always the question of, would you do the same thing in the same situation? And I think this would be one of the harder ones to say no to. Tinkerbell is motivated by the desire to save those close to her, at the cost of everyone else. And she's clearly let her pain and protectiveness turn her into a monster who can smile at a girl falling to her death in front of her. Every time I watch it though, I do find myself thinking, Peter is clearly the oldest lost boy, but Tinkerbell's supposed to be the youngest fairy. So I guess this version of Tinkerbell is the oldest. In fact, Vidya seems to be the youngest, going off the ages. But as good as this one is, I think the next one's even better. So let's talk about Take the Shot. This song follows the aftermath of Wendy's death, the change in the relationship between Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, and the final plan to save the fairies. It's notable for the increased focus on Peter, who is technically the antagonist of the video and says the first words in it, and he is understandably not having a good time. Of course, Tink has all the justification she needs. She had to do it. Wendy was dangerous. Doing it was good for the Lost Boys, so they would remain in Neverland and never grow up. Even in this song, Tinkerbell still sees Wendy as a dangerous monster who could have taken Peter away, completely missing the irony of the fact that she's describing herself and how she got Peter to leave his home and come to Neverland. We saw hints of Tink's resentment of humanity in the last song, but here it comes out at full force and is directed at the Lost Boys who, for some reason, aren't exactly on her side on this one. To her, they should be grateful for all she's given them, paying no mind to her own selfish motivations. In her mind, Peter being tempted by Wendy is the betrayal that caused all of this. Just another human growing up to the detriment of fairies. But taking a step back from the themes, the story itself is ramping up, with Tink unveiling her latest invention, born from the experiments to try and save her friends. A way to psychically control pixie dust and use it to enhance the powers of fairies, using it to take the Lost Boys from Peter. One flaw in having the story told entirely through songs by Tinkerbell is that characters can get lost to the wayside, and the Lost Boys are more objects than characters, with our focus being more on them being taken than wherever they wind up for the rest of the story. This is about Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. But the fairy does finally admit the truth. Peter is never leaving. She won't let him. And if he's here because they love each other or because he's scared of her, that's on him. Love to change into their, well, I don't know what else to call it, their conquest outfits. Because that's what they're for. Peter does make one attempt to stop them, but he can't bring himself to shoot Tinkerbell. This song, more than anything, is about the twisted relationship between these two. The way they hurt each other, but still need each other. In her mind, Tink sees what she's done as being for Peter's benefit, and the fact he's even mad about some girl he knew for a few days is outrageous. And Tinkerbell is, in some ways, Peter's mother figure. She says she raised him, and her hypocritical line of saying Wendy was a thief places the girl in a mother role, reflecting that on her. Despite the monstrousness of her actions and how it's hurt him, he can't really bring himself to take her down, even though she says that that's what he has to do. The song is called Take the Shot, as Tink is essentially daring Peter to kill her. He can't stop believing in her. He's all too aware that she's real. He has to do it physically. The one line of the chorus that doesn't end with the title is Tink telling Peter to do it if he's man enough, essentially associating Peter's ability to end her with his ability to grow up and become a man. It's a twisted, visceral take on letting go of something childish, but until he can loose the arrow, that's all this is. Childish. There's another element to the song though, and it's addressing even more lore. It's kind of funny to think of the Disney Fairies franchise in relation to the Peter Pan movies they're a prequel to, because they completely take over the world. Fairies are absurdly important. They are responsible for every aspect of the seasons. I think it's been a solid decade since I watched a Tinkerbell movie, and I very clearly remember a line saying that the last time fairies couldn't do their jobs was the Ice Age. With all that in mind, it's almost baffling that this is all just background to the story of some kid who will never grow up. It's a clever way to put serious stakes into the various adventures the characters have, but it also creates a situation where fairies run the world, need humans to believe in them, and also hide. It's a situation that could potentially be explained away, but is still kind of baffling in how we got here. But now, it's Tink's solution. Especially now that she's made herself and her friends too powerful for a bunch of early 20th century humans to fight. Fairies control the forces of nature. Why is the biggest catastrophe they face the fact that people don't believe in them? So, now motivated by a decision that it's perfectly okay to be feared as long as you're believed in, she and her friends attack the mainland, aided by their fairy dust weapons. Now the ungrateful humans have to believe in them. Look at all the destruction they've caused. They aren't just real, they're gods that must be respected, even worshipped. The fairies look absolutely spectacular as they bring devastation down on humanity. Not enough to actually kill people, but enough to leave a mark. And with that, Tink's done it. She saved the fairies. They won't die if people believe in them, and people definitely do now. Though I guess that means they just have human lifespans now, and frankly, that is far better than just the lifespan of a child believing in fairies. There's just one loose end. Peter Pan. Over the course of the animatic, he's changed. He seems to have become more mature and he can't fly anymore. He's either lacking faith, trust, or pixie dust. Faith is kind of irrelevant when he definitely knows fairies are real, and as far as I can tell, pixie dust is everywhere. It's ironic that this was all done to prevent him from growing up, and now this whole situation has forced him to. Seeing him like this actually gets to Tinkerbell, and she even tries to rekindle their relationship. But Peter doesn't trust her and tries to capture her. And this is where everything gets awesome, as her rage at him makes her erupt with power, gathering so much pixie dust her friends become concerned, and possibly powerless to do anything about what's about to happen. Everything about this design is cool. Between the green color she's had in these videos that differentiates her from everyone else, the golden veins and glowing eyes, combined with the rush of pixie dust behind her, it's an awesome transformation. So similar to when she told Peter that he was being childish. The fact he thought he could take her down with a net instead of doing what he knew he had to do almost seems to have insulted her. Tink's last verse is an interesting one, going over how she knows Peter wants to take her out. If anything, she seems to be encouraging him to do it, as she looks upon her invention, sees how her friends used to look with her sister Periwinkle in the background, sees how Peter used to look, and finally sees herself and what she's become. And for the first time, she actually thinks about Wendy as she really was, and of her final moments. With the threat to her and her people no longer hanging over her head, Tinkerbell has to confront what she's done. But she simply can't bring herself to let Peter win. She's too loyal to her people to not try to survive, even if she doesn't deserve it. It's between him and them. And if he does kill her, well, he can't fly. He can't leave Neverland. Her sister's gonna live as long as he stays alive and believing. If he wants to take her down, he just has to fight for it, because she's not gonna make it easy for him. The whole song, she's been asking why he doesn't just take the shot, and at the end, she sounds frustrated that he can't do it. But finally, he gathers the will to, and he shoots her in the wing to take her down. And as he looms over her with his knife prepared to deal the final blow, she closes her eyes to accept her fate. In the end, this story is a tragedy, born from a few simple yet believable twists in how the Disney movies were written. The story of a girl who would do anything to save her people from death, even to the detriment of those who ignorantly birthed them, and her fate after everything she'd done to save them. It'd be a hero story if not for the death, hatred, and child abuse. Frankly, it might be even better as it is. Shout out to my patrons, A and Skyman. What are your thoughts on these songs? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're at it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more. Thank you, and good day.